This is the Foamy Heads. We got a lot going today.
Yeah, we do.
This is kind of a weird environment for me because I haven't ever sat down. We're at a record. I mean, we're at your office right now.
Yeah.
at a semi-professional recording studio.
That's right.
I like that. But we've got quite a bit today. I'm a little out of my element right now because normally we're used to sitting down at either like just some sort of a fold-out table or a couch or something. And this is a little different. We've got microphones in front of us and all kinds of audio equipment.
Heck yeah. It's going to be a good day.
What are we drinking today?
Oh, man. Well, let's see. You brought up Secret City by Tennessee Brew Works.
I'm interested in this. Only a little. Well, I'm actually very interested in it because Imperial IPAs are my thing. Triples, doubles, I like that kind of thing. The higher the ABV, the better. But the higher the ABV, typically the trickier it gets because you have the opportunity to go too boozy and not enough flavor. So anybody can throw a bunch of alcohol into an IPA and say, oh, it's extremely boozy. But once you get into the 10% range and above, which is where this one sits, that's when it kind of starts to get a little delicate because only real good IPAs can come across as extremely flavorful in the higher ABV and still be boozy at the same time. That being said, Tennessee Brew Works,
right?
I typically don't follow what they produce.
Yeah.
So this should be interesting.
We were looking at the online kind of description of what flavors were present or put in. Was that the description they gave it, or?
Yeah, that was what they said, and that's always subject to subject to individuals and individual preferences. And this happens anywhere. Cigar magazines and beer magazines and liquor, they say these are the notes that you're expected to have and things like that. But every palate's different.
Right.
So we may not experience cantaloupe, pine, tangerine, stone fruit, mango, and honeydew. That's everything they listed.
Yeah, we'll see.
And that's a lot.
It is. Well, I'll go ahead and start opening these. There's one. Oh. There we go.
Let's see what this is like.
Now, pours out pretty nicely. Uh-oh. You're good. Looks like I got the nicer glass.
I'm just looking at it.
Yeah. What do you think so far?
Copper.
Yeah, it's definitely got it's copper in color for sure.
It's definitely not. It's not hazy, but that's not what you're expecting from this. A lot of the IPAs we've had recently have been super juicy and hazy. This is definitely more on the see-through side, but
yeah,
smells. What? Hang on a second. There's some mango. I can smell some mango and some stone fruit. I don't get honeydew or tangerine, but that's just on the nose.
Mm-hmm. I'm not picking up any kind of. It's a little citrusy, but that's about all I've got from the nose. Citrusy and a little bit of a.
Well, okay. So before we jump into it, let's run down the specs.
Yeah.
On this beer.
Let's
so
do it.
10%, 10.1%, 70 IBUs. Tennessee Brew Works is broadcasting this as an extremely limited beer. So I live out in Murfreesboro, and our distributor got 5 cases, and I have no idea how big of an area that distributor services. He got 5 cases of bottles. Case being 24, so approximately 115, 120 bottles they got, and the beer store near me got 1 case. So, that it's supposedly extremely limited, but I have no idea how limited it is because the casual pint right down the road from me has it on draft also. So I have no clue.
On draft.
On draft. So this
you know what we usually say about on draft.
It's always better on draft.
Oh yeah, and before we get too deep, just wanted to say welcome to the Foamy Heads.
That's where we are.
Yeah. Where drinks matter, but our thinks don't.
I like that.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and dive in on this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see here. Oh, you got a good foamy head there, waiting on it a little bit.
There we go.
Mine went down pretty quick. It's got some decent legs to it.
The foam stays.
It does.
You know, this is, and it's chilled. It's not super cold. This has been out of the refrigerator for a while. Actually, it's never been in the refrigerator. I was traveling back from Knoxville last night, and I just had these beers in the back of my car, so it'd been around 20 degrees all night.
Very nice.
I'm gonna take the first sip.
Yeah, I got distracted by taking pictures.
Okay.
Hey, it's got a little personality.
Yeah, it does. It tastes different than it smells.
Yes. It smelled kind of plain, in my opinion.
Yeah.
A little bit of citrusy, but then it just kind of smelled like lager or something. You know, obviously beer, but it didn't give me a profile of any sort on the nose.
Do you pick up on the pine?
Just a bit.
On the end.
Right at the end.
Yeah.
It's got that definite bitter end to it with a piney kind of hit.
It's, for 10%, you expect it to be a little sweeter, and, that makes sense, but this seems to be sweeter than I was expecting for a 10% beer. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just I wasn't expecting it to be
right
sugary sweet. Like, boozy sweet is one thing, but
yeah. I think it's a surprise overall because I don't think I've had a beer kind of like this one.
No.
For 10%, it's...
I don't dislike it.
I don't either.
It's good. I don't know what I was expecting. I guess I really don't have anything else to say about this beer other than, I didn't. I'm going to be nice when I say Tennessee Brewworks is not typically a brewery that I drink just because I've been disappointed many times, by their brews. So I at the same time, an extremely limited beer. I was excited, but my expectations were low. So I think that combination means when I tried it, I like it.
Right.
Just because I wasn't expecting to fall in love with it. But did I fall in love with it? Maybe not. Maybe not.
I'd probably get it on draft if I saw it, but it mainly for, it's a 10%. It's not overly sweet, and it's got its own kind of character taste to it, which I enjoy. It's that pininess right at the end that kind of brightens it up.
That moves it from sweet to bitter
right.
a little bit, which would have been more disappointing had it just stayed sweet the entire time. Because when you drink it at first and it tastes like an IPA, but it's extremely sweet, which is not what you're expecting from an IPA. But then the pine comes in at the end and the bitterness comes right in at the end, and it kind of saves it for me. So I was like, okay, I go from it's not bad to the last part of the sip, it's really good.
This almost reminds me of some Christmas beers I've had.
Christmas beers.
Just because it's sweeter, but then the pininess kind of brings it back to where it needs to be. Really. Yeah. It mellows it out. But I'm kind of comparing stout to IPA at that point because the sweeter ones I had were stout based. But this kind of reminds me of it. It feels like a holiday beverage to me for some reason.
Feels like a holiday beverage. So let's go back down then. So aromas of pine, tangerine, stone fruit, mango, and honeydews. Flavors, aromas which are replicated in the flavor profile, which is highlighted by a rich, full body, nice resin mouthfeel, solid malty backbone, and dry, crisp finish. That's somewhat accurate.
Yeah.
I think that's somewhat accurate.
It's crisp at the end for sure. It's refreshing, for what it's worth.
I still don't get honeydew unless that's just the sweetness part of it that I'm picking up on.
I feel like honeydew is a pretty subtle sweetness anyway. I don't think we're going to pick up on that as much as, I don't know.
I don't taste mango, but I smell mango.
Yeah, the citrus smell to it. That's definitely a mango presence.
And stone fruit. I'm not too familiar with stone fruit.
Me neither. I'm not a good judge on stone fruit.
Tangerine, that's a little bit there. The average rating on Untapped for this beer is 3.97. I'm a little conservative on my Untappd ratings. I don't think that my ratings are a little bit lower than the average. Mm-hmm. I would not put this at a 3.97. I'm struggling with the rating on this one.
Tennessee Brewworks, it really came out of the woodworks for me on this one because it's got personality to it, and I'm going to give it a 3.5.
That's what I was sitting at. I think this is a good beer for what it is. If I see this on draft, I definitely want to try it because I'm going to remember what this beer tastes like in a bottle because it's so unique from the other IPAs that I've tried that when this comes out on tap, I'm going to say, I remember what this tastes like on draft. I'm going to buy it on tap in a bottle, and now I want to see what it's like on draft so I can compare the two.
Yeah. Hopefully they still have it for you, too.
We'll see.
I'm looking it up on Untappd right now. I'm not seeing it.
Secret City by Tennessee Brewworks.
Tennessee. Well, there it is. I had to type in TN after Secret City, and then it pulled up. That's weird. But thank you for being smart, Untappd. Yeah, that was a lot better than I thought it would be. Just because the beers we've selected from Tennessee Brewworks haven't
always turned out in our favor.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that I know this about Tennessee Brewworks, and this is what I like, is in today's world in craft breweries, you've got the guys that are just starting out and they're sourcing from anywhere they can. They're still worried about cost of goods to some extent, but they're worried more about making a good product, so they're willing to spend more to get a good product. And over time, as they get larger and larger and they start to scale, they either get acquired by macro breweries or they become so large that in order to keep their margins and their profits high, they have to start sacrificing in quality, and that may mean buying in bulk from other places and sketchy places. Tennessee Brewworks, I do know for a fact that they source straight local ingredients, so they don't actually buy ingredients from anywhere outside their area. Everything is local where they purchase, where they're able to. So I do respect that, and the fact that they're creating jobs and they're growing within Nashville.
Right.
That makes a big presence for Tennessee Brewworks. So I'm excited to I throw a lot of shade at them just for the fact that I'm never really a fan of their beers, but I like what they stand for, and they are the definition of a craft brewery because they source locally, they put jobs in their area, and they produce beer that they are proud of and that their fans are proud of as well.
Yeah.
So that's
Props
what I like about that.
I'm looking forward to giving them more chances this year, just seeing what's out there, what they come up with for that fact alone. That's awesome. I'm just going to leave this going.
Yeah, that's fine.
And we'll grab another beer. But this is awesome.
It's tasty.
It's it's not what I'm going to remember later.
No.
Just for namesake alone, but I think it might the label itself, I think it's going to catch my attention because it's got radioactive signs on it, which makes no sense to me.
If you're going to put Secret City on there, put something that resembles something underground or Secret City, not radioactive, nuclear waste type logo on the front, because that's a big turnoff.
But we might be missing something because it's Secret City. Is that a reference? I don't know.
We haven't been made privy to it. It's a secret.
That's right. It's better towards the end.
Yeah.
After you already have that initial coating, it's pretty good. This is my beer wrench.
I like that. Only one way to fix this one. I like that.
J to the ROC. It could happen to you because it happened to me and T.
For whatever reason, T is part of it.
Yeah. I roll with my kitties. What was Bubbles' rap? God, a tabby one, a gray one. No, a gray one, a white one, and a tabby two.
Oh, let me look at
they
that.
play something, and with my shoes. Up in my shed. I love it.
A to Z lyrics. Here it goes. I got a gray kitty, white one, and a tabby two, and a big orange guy who put snakes in my shoes. Mad MC skills. I leave you struck, and I roll with my kitties, and I'm hard as fuck.
Yes.
And I'm down with Plato and Socrates, and I like to get busy with all the ladies. Grunt. Something. Grunt,
Up in my shed. Go Bubbles.
Yeah.
Go Bubbles.
Everybody loves Bubbles.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Bubbles is great.
Yeah, Bubbles is probably one of the God, they're all good.
Yeah, man.
Like Ricky, Bubbles. I'd say my favorite characters are Ricky and Bubbles.
Yes.
Those are my two favorite characters, probably in the show. But they all seem needed to some extent.
Man, out of the three, definitely Bubbles. And
Yeah.
it's a hard competition,
It's a hard choice,
man.
Ricky or Bubbles.
But I also love Leahy. He stirs all the shit. Like, he is the liquor.
Yeah.
And R.I.P. Mr. Leahy. We miss you. God. I've been seeing all those tours, and we had our chances like years ago to see Ricky, or not Ricky. Well, they came to town too,
yeah,
but
it was a SwearNet cast,
yes,
right? Yeah.
But there was also just Leahy and Randy going around the USA and
man.
Canada, just doing their thing, serving hamburgers during their shows. And
that's great.
Well, how fantastic would that be? Randy's continuing the tradition, but it's just like Picnic with Randy kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But man, and Randy keeps taking pictures on tour of the biggest like gut he could find, and they put their guts together for a picture. And no one's came close to Phil Collins, in my opinion.
That's so greasy. Philadelphia Collins. Yeah. I love that. There's no shirt that fits him. That's the funny part. Are you looking at my gut? It's like, yes, we're looking at your gut. It's fucking huge. No big deal.
Burp. Smells like mackerel.
Oh.
That show's too good, man.
Greasy.
Greasy. That show, it's never a dull moment. There's always something in each season that catches your attention, at least.
Oh, that's gross.
But the first season is pretty slow.
Mm-hmm.
I love Trailer Park Boys. I guess my turn's up.
Yeah.
What are we drinking?
Hey, Bell's Hop Slam.
Man.
Yearly release.
The yearly release for Hop Slam. Double India Pale Ale brewed with honey. This has been a favorite for a long time. And I know we probably said it in past couple podcasts, but or releases, but Hop Slam was one of the higher IPAs that I had to get me into beer, craft beer, specifically craft beer IPAs, India Pale Ales or doubles. And it's just weird because we both started with crazy hopped out of the minds beer.
Yeah.
And it got us into the normal stuff.
We started all the way at the top, and we was like, we can't get much hoppier and much more than this.
Apparently, we had to get punched to get into it because that's what happened.
Yep.
And with you, the 120, right, from Dogfish.
Yep. Dogfish had 120-minute IPA, 17.5%, 120 IBUs. Like that was the first IPA that I had. I had sampled a couple before. Whenever somebody said, you know, hey Richard, do you like IPAs? And I said, no, I don't like bitter beers. Mine was more like Sam Adams. I liked Wits. I liked, you know, Copper lagers and things like that. And then somebody goes, hey, try this IPA, and I take a sip and I go, it's just too bitter for me. But I think for me, it needed to be sweet.
Yeah.
And hoppy, and then from there I could kind of dial back on the alcohol and start getting more and more bitter. So that's the reason I think why 120 appealed to me as an IPA.
Yeah.
So, but that it's kind of different with Hop Slam.
It is,
because Hop Slam's not very sweet. It's sweet, but only because of the alcohol. It's not.
And the honey gives it a little bit of a not canceling of sweet and bitter, but it's like it's almost soft at the end.
Yeah.
And it's pleasant.
Well, it balances out the just massive amount of hops that it throws at you in the first part, which is actually it's the opposite, I think, of what we just had with Secret City.
That's true.
Because that starts out extremely sweet, and then the bitter comes in at the end, whereas with Hop Slam, it throws everything it has at you, you know, and then it says, oh, by the way, here's some sweetness at the end to kind of save the day.
That's true. Man, yeah. Didn't think about that. That'll be interesting to see how this is now following that act.
But it's a good follow-up, though, I think, because they're both 10%, and they're both very high in IBUs. Let's see, I think the Secret City was around 70 IBUs, but it was 10%. But the Bell's Hop Slam is, oh gosh, I'm trying to remember. I looked it up. I can't necessarily see it, but it's in the same neighborhood, I think, as the Secret City. I think it's around 70 IBUs and 10%. So we're looking at two very distinct beers, but they're also in the same category in terms of alcohol and hops.
Yeah, I think you're right. I tried to search it on Untapped real quick, but as reliable as it can be, it's just as unreliable. And the current Hop Slam has no IBU.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at 17, and it was 70 on the dot.
Okay. So
it should be in the ballpark.
And I really don't think that their recipe changes from year to year.
Yeah, I think it's consistent.
I think it's the same beer. I think sometimes maybe they'll change it up. I don't know if they added honey this year, but in previous years. The only reason I knew there was honey in this beer is because you had referenced it a couple of times and it has honey in it. But so I don't really know if that's a normal thing. I just looked it up. This year's version has 70 IBUs as well.
Okay.
So
it's pretty consistent across the board, year to year.
Yeah. So we're looking at two very distinct beers, but in the same, they're in the same category, same boat. So this is a good beer to follow it up with.
Can't wait. It already pours out with like a slight copper tone, and
it's a little bit lighter looking than the Secret City. Just a little bit lighter. Mm-hmm. Man, you can smell those hops.
Yeah, you can.
Hop Slam, I look forward to Hop Slam every year.
Yes, I do too.
Bell's is a good brewery. I typically don't go out of my way to find their stuff just because it's available everywhere. I can always find it. But whenever Hop Slam comes out, I always try my best to get a 6-pack of it so that I can savor it and drink it a little bit here and there.
I love finding it on tap if I can, and the cans are just fun to find in general. Thankfully, the places around me get all sorts of beers.
Yeah.
And that's super convenient. But, 2-3 years ago,
wasn't the case.
No.
Nope.
I need to look up the new laws for Tennessee's distribution, because apparently we're just letting the floodgates in. Like Revolution Beer, your friend I saw checked it in and put the purchase location in Murfreesboro.
Yeah.
And
which used to not be a thing. Revolution was not distributed anywhere in Middle Tennessee, or even I think Tennessee in general.
Yeah, and apparently it's all up in Kentucky now. So there's some distributor somewhere throwing it down into Murfreesboro, and I super appreciate it, and I can't wait to see like the other beers that come out from Revolution into Tennessee. Specifically looking at their it's their barrel aged series that they come out with at the end of winter every year, or at least end of the year, around December. And I'm going blank on the name right now because we don't have it. I'm not able to drink it ever. But they've got Death Star is I think the original can that they did yearly for a while. And that was already really sought after. Lines out the door in Chicago waiting for this beer. And then they expanded the line to like a coffee version, a bourbon barrel version, vanilla, and all sorts of stuff. So now they call it a specific series that they're doing year to year.
Deepwood?
That's it. Okay. Yeah, the Deepwood series.
Yeah. That's and the interesting thing about Revolution Chicago based,
yes.
Right? Yeah, so they're out of Chicago, but the same thing happened with Dogfish Head, back when Tennessee used to not allow Dogfish Head to be distributed because the only thing they could get was 60-minute IPA. Everything else had to be sold in a liquor store because of the Tennessee laws, and their alcohol levels were way too high. So there wasn't much of a footprint in Tennessee, and of course there were quality problems that Dogfish Head experienced because they tried to expand too big too fast, so they eventually had to pull back a lot. But once they got their quality down and they were able to start distributing at scale, very similar to Revolution, you started seeing them in Kentucky. Like they would distribute to Kentucky 120-minute IPA. People would drive to Kentucky twice a year when they knew that those stores were going to get 120. And then after so long, it was like you couldn't find it anymore because people just came in and bought all of it up. Man. And slowly they started distributing south. So Tennessee typically gets craft beers after Kentucky does for a lot of the northern and west coast breweries even, because Kentucky is a good hub for craft beer. Because there's people from states all over around Kentucky that just have this love for craft beer and they're willing to drive to get it.
Right.
So
it's a good median.
I think Revolution was kind of doing the same thing. Is that you find a lot of those beers first in Kentucky before you'll find them locally in your area. Man, this pours good.
Yeah, it is. That's a good foamy head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it smells great.
It's crisp, light, and there's a little bit of sweetness to it, and I can only assume that it's the honey with the hops.
Mm-hmm. Probably. What I like about Hop Slam is that it's dry hopped at the end with Simcoe or Citra. I can't remember. Simcoe hops. I typically don't. Simcoe hops are okay for me. I typically go for more of the juicier, sweeter hops than Simcoe. Simcoe's a little bit bitter and a little bit basic. Like there's not much to Simcoe hops. Kind of like Mosaic. They're just there to add bitterness to it. But in this beer, it works because it's sweet. With the higher alcohol, and they say, okay, now that we're done with the 6 different hops, we're just going to massively dry hop it with Simcoe. And I think that's where we're getting that bitter taste on the end, because dry hop beers always allude to bitter aftertastes. So that might be where that end of the sip is coming in, and that's what I like about Hop Slam. Yeah,
I'm diving on in. I actually took earlier sips, but it's good. It's
tasty.
It's always so good.
Yep.
Man, the honey just...
Grapefruit, stone fruit, and floral notes. Generous malt bill. Dollop of honey provide just enough body to keep the balance in check, resulting in a remarkably drinkable rendition of a double IPA style.
Again with the stone fruit. Man.
Yeah. Rate Beer gave it a 4.2 out of 5. That's accurate.
Nice.
I think that, in my opinion, this beer, I always look forward to this beer because it's super hoppy. It's not boozy.
No, not at all. It's got a sweetness to it, but you don't
it's
get
not
the
alcohol
boozy
sweetness.
Yeah.
I think it hides the alcohol better than the Secret City.
Definitely.
That we had. And I keep referring back to that, but I understand they're two different beers. But they're both 10% and they're both 70 IBUs.
Yes.
And I don't think we realized that going into today.
No, we didn't.
Because I brought the Secret Cities and you had the Hop Slams.
Yep.
And after we had that Secret City, we said, you know what? What can we have? And you brought out Hop Slam, which was accurate because there's really nothing else I think that can follow something of that high ABV except Hop Slam.
Yeah, this is the only contender we've got on hand.
But they're two completely different tasting beers. One starts out sweet and ends bitter, and that's the Hop Slam here. And the other one starts out bitter and then sweet. And that's, I think I got that backwards, actually. The Hop Slam ends bitter.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
It does.
But the Secret City ends sweet, but starts out bitter, whereas the Hop Slam is the exact opposite.
Mm-hmm. Or Secret City.
Secret City.
Yeah. Lots of hops.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how much hops they put in the Hop Slam.
Yeah, I'm curious too. The man, you can taste them as you get more and more into the beer as you drink it. Like on the initial taste, it's got like a smoothness to it and then a bitterness. But as you keep coating your mouth with it over the glass, keep sipping it, it gets a little more bitter and bitter and bitter. It kind of stacks up.
Yep.
And it's just delicious. I kind of wish the Secret City had a little more bitterness than the sweetness.
Yep.
It's just
that would have bumped it up a little bit more for me.
Definitely.
I think if the Secret City had a little bit more bitterness to me, it would have been not discounting the beer. It was good.
Yes.
It would have been better with a little bit more hops.
For sure. And Hop Slam nails it. They just nail it. It's consistent too. So, we already had our mind set on how it should be, and it is.
And it is that. Here's a fun fact about Hop Slam. The amount of hops in one bottle of Hop Slam equals the amount of hops in 7.2 cases of a popular light beer. So you're looking at how many beers are in a case? 24 times 7. You're looking at, oh God, well, shoot.
That was a big part of their advertising campaign this year too. They've had some fantastic graphics of just like the beer glasses we're using today. They compiled 70 some odd glasses and then maybe a half of one or however it was.
That's a good idea.
And they were like, this is how many hops it is compared to one, blah blah blah.
That's great.
And they did that on multiple things.
But so. that depicts the amount of hops compared to another beer. I just did the math. 173 light beers.
Oh my God.
The amount of hops in 173 light beers is the same amount of hops in one can of Hop Slam. One can versus 173 cans. That's ridiculous.
That's nuts. Yeah. And it's delicious.
Yes.
So this is definitely one. I'm trying to remember what I said my first IPA was, and I'm having trouble thinking now. I know Hop Slam was part of it, but I feel like Hop Slam was the second one.
Well, have you sampled a couple other beers beforehand?
I totally did, but none of them hit home. It had to be a palate wrecker, and it might have been Hop Slam. I'll have to go back and look at my notes because I went through a whole journey trying to figure out what I had before to lead me to what I'm drinking now, and that episode is still to come. But because I've got all the Belgians that I had that got me into beer initially, craft beer, and then the IPA train hit, and it was thanks to the heavy hitters, plain India Pale Ales just didn't do it for me at the beginning. It was almost like, what is this? It tastes bitter. I don't want it.
Yeah.
But it took a punch in the mouth of bitter. I don't know why, but there's tons of flavor. I guess that's what it is. And it shocks your mouth with the amount of hops they put into it. And then you kind of get interest there. And that's where I started perusing the more in the vein of India Pale Ale, excuse me. And then there's, the hazy IPAs that eventually hit Nashville, but New England, it just became part of my new thing for years to come were IPAs after I think it was Hop Slam, 120, and there was one more that I'm forgetting that did something, but at the time I was also testing out the waters with Lagunitas and all sorts of other ones. So it's hard to say
which one it was.
Yeah.
Well, that's two very big heavy hitters. Hop Slam, 120. You weren't referring to the beer earlier, but you did mention the same phrase. Green Flash has a palate wrecker.
Oh, yeah. Green Flash was awesome.
Yes, and they no longer distribute on the East Coast, unfortunately. No. They had an East Coast distribution center, but they kind of started scaling, and more and more craft beer came out, and they just didn't keep up with originality and stuff, and they kind of got swallowed. So, they had to move things and shut down their East Coast plant. They still distribute out in the West, so like California, Nevada, and places like that. Palate wrecker is probably one of the hoppiest. It's easily over 100 IBUs. I think it was like 120 IBUs or something like that. And that beer was easily the hoppiest beer that I've ever had. But I think that I had that early on too. in my IPA career, and I don't understand why I liked it so much. Maybe like what you said, it's a little sweet because it's higher alcohol, but a lot of the IPAs out there, they just make a lot of breweries. They just make IPAs. They say let's just throw a bunch of hops in a beer and make it. And IPAs are easy to make, but they don't always taste good. So when somebody tries an IPA and they're like, I don't get this, like craft beer, you haven't had the right IPA yet.
That's right. There are variants. And I was trying to drink too much Hop Slam that time. But, God, one thing I definitely want to try is recreating Pliny.
Ooh.
I think that'd be a fun project for the podcast.
Ooh.
And, that we can't get Pliny here in Tennessee.
I love Pliny the Elder. But
if we can work on it for 6 months, I think we might be able to nail it. We'll have to. It's a progressional thing, but
8% and 100 IBUs is Pliny the Elder.
It's so good.
It doesn't drink like that.
No, it doesn't.
Like it's a lot smoother. It doesn't drink like 100 IBUs, which you're expecting this big punch in the face.
Right.
And Hop Slam, I think, kind of has more of a hop backbone than Pliny the Elder does. And it's a higher ABV than Pliny the Elder. Pliny the Elder just drinks so smooth.
It's ridiculous.
Yes.
We'd be spoiled if we got it here, because now we're getting all sorts of good beers, but...
Come on, Russian River. Bring your shit to Tennessee. Let's go. California-based, man.
It's like Ricky. Pliny, let's go.
Let's go. Beers.
Yeah. Man,
I've had it one time. I've had Pliny. Twice.
I feel like twice.
I've had it twice. I had it recently, and then I had it a while back, and I can't remember if it was you that gave me a bottle or if it was somebody else.
It wasn't me. I wasn't able to find one while I was in Colorado.
Okay. I had it recently. I had it probably a couple of months ago. My friend was up in Indiana. It might have been Indiana or Chicago or whatever. Or no, Colorado. And Pliny is actually pretty available in Colorado, which is where a lot of new craft breweries are.
The bottles are still limited, one per customer per day. But, I mean, you can keep going back and picking them up. And it's also on tap at several places that you wouldn't expect if you're just an out-of-towner.
Yeah.
There was a pizza joint that had it on tap. Endless supply, it felt like. Because I ordered 5.
5 Pliny the Elders? That's a good day.
It was awesome. And then we went to another place. It was kind of like a dive bar in a sense in Denver proper. So I forget the name of it. It's a well-known establishment for GABF. The lines are out the door at this place singularly because Pliny the Elder's on tap. Same with that pizza joint, I believe. It's a little more recent, like several years. They've been there, if not 5 or more. But both those places are just packed for Pliny on GABF, from what I've been told. We eventually will get to GABF, but yeah. God, we won't be able to record because of the madness.
No.
We might do like segments, 5 minutes at a time, like currently in line at blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
we're planning to get our hands on this.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, we could bring our cell phones and maybe do a mobile podcast from there and piece a bunch of stuff together.
But there's going to be no time to sit down and drink at these places unless we're just given a spot. But, we're just starting out maybe a few years from now. But, man, that would be the dream, wouldn't it?
Yep.
Man, GABF. There's like 3 events I want to go to. GABF, Dark Lord's Day. And then there's the Beer Advocate one.
Beer Advocate.
Yeah, I'm still learning about this one, but apparently it's something that happens every year. It's in Boston, and it's a big gathering of people from Beer Advocate, of course. And, tickets are comparable to GABF, I think, if I remember right, but Dark Lord's Day seems way up there.
It is.
I can't wait for that.
It is. It's funny that you mentioned that because
Oh,
I've got Dark Lord
yes.
Day's website up on right now. You just happened to mention it, and I was like, I really want to talk about Dark Lord Day, but
Let's do it.
I mean, okay, that's fine. This isn't, we're drinking IPAs.
Right.
Dark Lord Day is all about imperial barrel-aged stouts and porters and all that. And so I debated bringing it up just because we're not drinking that today.
True, but we're going to be talking about Dark Lord Day for a while anyway,
man.
because you had a fantastic experience with it last year, and right now we gotta deplenish our IPA stock. We've bulked up a mass of IPA from not only Bearded Iris and Nashville, because we're here in Nashville, but we've got IPA. We have a load of stouts to get to soon because of my dive into craft beer, included Belgians.
Okay.
So it's going to be a weekend of dark beer.
Yes.
And we may even do this leading up to Dark Lord's Day.
God, and I'm so excited. Dark Lord Day. Okay, so let's talk about Dark Lord Day for a minute. March 23rd. $200 to get a ticket. $190 and some change or something like that. It is not a cheap event, but that being said, and it doesn't include your beer, and that's kind of the shitty part. Is Dark Lord Day is like a day where everybody just and they only have so many tickets available. So March 23rd is when tickets go on sale. May 18th is when Dark Lord Day is. So 12 o'clock p.m., the website's going to be flooded because people are going to be waiting in the queue to buy tickets for Dark Lord Day. And you buy your tickets, and then you show up, and each person can bring 72 ounces of beer, I think, per person into the event. So everybody shows up with 100 ounces of beer plus, and then they wait in line to get into the event. So people are lined up at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and they're just passing bottles back. So somebody will bring a beer from their favorite local brewery that you can't get anywhere else. It's the exact opposite of what your mom told you not to do when you were a little kid. You don't take things from a stranger, right? And somebody just opens up a bottle, pours a little bit, starts passing it back, and you get all these beers that you can't try because they don't distribute outside their area. Man. And I met so many good people there. Just, hey, come try this beer out. And they'll just, you have your taster glass around your neck all day, and they just come up and they'll pour a beer in your glass, and you can start drinking it. It's amazing. Like it's everybody is there simply to bond over drinking beer and making good friends. That's literally all. They have concerts all day, food trucks, and literally Three Floyd's beer everywhere. They're tapping yearly releases every hour at probably different. I mean, they've probably got 15 or 20 different locations in that brewery just for Dark Lord beer. And then they say you and you. They pick out their breweries and they say, bring this beer. This is the one we want you to bring.
It's just
you have
one,
to bring.
too.
Every brewery can only bring one beer.
Oh man!
And it has to be their best beer. And people don't submit applications to apply to bring a Dark Lord Day. Three Floyds picks the brewery, and they said these are the beers that you have to bring. Pick one of them and bring them with you. So it's a very exclusive event. Well worth your $200, in my opinion.
Yes. Oh man, I can't wait.
It's going to be
fantastic.
So good.
Yeah.
And you won't remember much of it that day. It'll
That's
all
what
come
brings
back
you
slowly.
back.
Yeah, exactly. I'll remember next year when I go. That's not the case either.
Yeah. We'll probably record snippets if we are, progressionally throughout the thing. We got to think on how we're going to do that. It may be bad audio quality, but we're going to post something about it.
Yeah.
And all the people involved, because it's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
And oh man.
Well, maybe we do something. Maybe we take, maybe we do live videos, and maybe we'll post it to our stories on Instagram.
True.
Or, on the Foamy Heads Instagram
That'd
page
be
or
good.
something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't necessarily have to podcast, but we can still record the events as we go throughout the day. We can take videos, or we could do live feeds and just kind of walk around and show what they have
That'll
on
be
draft.
fun. Yeah.
That might be one way to do it.
That's probably
too.
the best way, because we haven't put all in on this thing yet. So, we're still testing the waters, figuring things out, and Instagram kind of makes it easy for that. It'll publish to Facebook too. So, Guess we'll have to set up a channel for that. But man, Dark Lord Day is going to be fantastic.
I can't wait.
Final thoughts for Hop Slam?
I can't wait till 2020 or 29 or later this year when it comes out again.
That's right.
No,
I like that.
I'm not discrediting Bell's. I think Bell's is a great brewery. Our friend Robert is just a huge Bell's brewery fan. That Bell's and Avery are probably his two favorite breweries around, but we have very different flavor profiles. He hates IPAs and loves dark beers. Bell's, in my opinion, they make good beer, but there's also good beers from other breweries that I can try. So while I don't stray away from Bell's, I just don't go looking for it.
Right.
But when Hop Slam comes out, it's a whole different story.
Yes.
I look forward to Hop Slam every single year.
Man, we're going to have to get Robert for the Dark Beer Day then.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to hear what he has to say about my early adoptions.
You know Robert will provide his opinion on
That's
it
right.
too.
Robert's a good dude.
Yes.
Man, I can't wait. That's going to be a good episode.
What's your take on final thoughts for Hop Slam, though?
Hop Slam, it's always a fan favorite for me. You know, I'm a fan of Bell's specifically for Hop Slam.
Yeah.
They've got other ales and beverages that I enjoy, but Hop Slam's the one that sticks out in my mind. And that's probably because it's one of the ones that got me into IPA craft beers. And I just, not a year goes by that I'm like, oh shit, where's that Hop Slam?
Yep.
Because I want it towards October, like at least in Tennessee. Our seasons for boats and just getting out typically are from March all the way till November, right now anyway. And Hop Slam's a perfect companion on a boat because typically you bring like lower than 6% beverages on a boat, but if you start with Hop Slam, you're set. And it's not overly bitter. And it's not overly sweet.
Yeah.
It's a good in between. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's still strong.
Yeah.
But it rests easy. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a way to explain it.
Shit, I'm going with you next time you go on a boat. You're gonna bring some Bell's Hop Slam
Fuck
on a
yeah.
boat? Okay.
Man, it's fantastic. And I think I usually go with Hop Slam and what is that Founders All Day IPA?
Yeah.
That kind of keeps it going.
Yeah.
So it's a good combo between the two if you're into IPA.
What are we drinking?
We are drinking the Raspberry Truffle from Avery. So this is number 50 and their barrel aged series, stout aged in bourbon barrels with chocolate and raspberries.
That sounds good. This
was, since they give me the information, I'll continue here. Bottled in July 27th, 2018. 14% alcohol by volume.
14%?
Yeah, we're splitting this one.
Ooh.
And production total was 1,368 cases.
That's cool.
So pretty limited. With this 50th installment to their barrel age series, they figured there's always room for dessert. They are proud to serve this homage to Dad's favorite dessert, a riff off their first ever seasonal brew from 1996, magnified in bourbon barrels for a bigger, bolder bite of indulgence. And just with the additional nitty gritty, this was brewed with the Rocky Mountain water, malted barley, malted wheat, oats, chocolate, raspberries, hops, and yeast. Since they give me the information, I read it.
14%.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts, man. I love Avery.
This is turning out to be a day because we've had two 10% beers.
Yes.
And now we're splitting this one.
Yeah.
We're splitting this 14% beer, but Jesus, still, I mean, 6 ounces a piece of 14% beer. This is going to be good.
It's something, man. So here we go. Let's see what this pours like. I almost wish. Well, we'll just go with these. 1, 2, 3. Finish that off real quick, and the rest goes into here. Look at that.
Nice. Thank you, sir.
I gave yours more of a heavy pour than mine. But
this is your beer. You need to be taking this one. I've rinsed this one out, so you're welcome to have that glass.
Hold on.
I can smell that from here. I'm just like, we're across the table.
Ooh.
We don't have video going right now. Mitch is holding both glasses, and we're probably 3.5, 4 feet away. Yeah, probably 4 feet, 4.5 feet away. And I can smell the beer all the way from over here. I can smell the booze, and I can smell the raspberry.
We're letting the foam sit here. It looks like I might have heavy poured you a little bit, so I'll just do this and let me grab a towel. Well, this is what we got currently. So
14%.
14, man. Avery doesn't joke.
No.
A little bit of residue there that we left.
Yeah.
But that's all right.
Okay, this is standing up against some pretty high reviews. This has an average of 4.4 out of 5 on Beer Advocate.
Oh, wow.
So this is a tall order that they have to fill. 4.39 to be exact out of 5 is the average rating on Beer Advocate. Beer Advocate typically is a little bit more harsh with their ratings than somebody like Untapped, because Untapped is more of a social beer media site, whereas Beer Advocate, there is a social piece involved, but it requires extra steps to go through and create a profile with Beer Advocate. And typically you find there are more beer snobs on Beer Advocate than there are in places like Untapped, which is mainly just about making friends and rating beers in the meantime. So if there's typically the ratings on Beer Advocate, to me, I've found have been more accurate or more in line with what I think a beer should be than somewhere like Untapped. So the fact that I see a 4.4 out of 5 means it's a pretty tall order. So I'm very interested to see whether or not I agree with this.
Yeah, I'm very curious. And the way they spell truffle is truffale. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I said truffale earlier or truffle, but truffale specifically.
Well,
this is interesting.
Run down the look. So there's a lot of floaties in it.
Yeah.
This thing is dark. There is no seeing through this beer. It's definitely jet black. Tan head. Kind of a dark tan head and a lot of floaties in it, I would say. I don't know if it's the wheat or what it is, but I'm picking up a lot of sediment.
A lot of sediment, yeah. I'm going to stir it around a little bit just to get a peek at this. Yeah. What I expected there.
The nose is full of raspberries. Raspberries and barrel aged.
Yeah.
This thing smells boozy.
Bourbon and raspberry, man. It's like one of those cordials. Wow. This is definitely, as the picture on the label depicts, like almost a Thanksgiving kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
looks very woodsy.
Definitely.
Should we dive in?
Let's dive on in.
Woo!
Damn.
Whoa! Wow! Raspberry, chocolate.
Dude.
The booziness is there, but barrel aged is there, but it's not.
It fades out.
Yeah, real quick. Like, it's on the front for sure.
Yes.
And then it just completely dissipates.
Yes.
That is very weird. I wasn't expecting that.
No, all I get is like dark chocolate and fruit raspberry notes.
Wow.
Right at the end. And that's a wonderful aftertaste.
That is
Holy
so
crap.
good.
Oh.
Man, that bitter chocolate on the end.
Yeah. It tastes better than it smells, but it smells pretty damn good.
It smells really damn good, and it tastes really fucking good.
Robert, we're sorry. We'll have to find some for you some other time.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
He's already had this.
Really?
Actually,
okay.
yeah, he checked this in.
Oh, good.
Proud
of him.
Robert, one of our buddies, Avery is probably his biggest, and he actually had this at the brewery when he visited last time back in October. He gave this a 4.5 out of 5 on Untappd. I don't disagree with his.
Yeah, not at all.
Rating. This is a really good beer.
I might have to match his review rating because that's kind of rare. But damn, that's a dessert,
man. Here's the thing, though, is it smells extremely barrel aged. Like it smells bourbony, really bourbony. But when I taste it, I get the booze and I get the alcohol, but it's muted very quickly by the raspberries and the dark chocolate.
Yes.
So I don't taste by the end of the sip. I don't taste barrel aged. It smells more barrel aged than it tastes, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, where you end up just tasting peanut butter at the end.
Fun fact about me: I don't eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I don't like jelly, so I don't eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So I have no idea what that means.
That's too bad, man.
I had no childhood growing up.
Gosh. That's pretty good, man.
Yeah. Barrel aged series stout aged in bourbon barrels with chocolate and raspberries. And I keep reiterating, it's amazing how barrel aged it smells, but it dissipates quickly on the taste. When I taste it, like it's there quickly and then it disappears. Like the raspberry and chocolate show up real quick and it just completely overrides the barrel aged taste.
Super weird.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy it.
It's really good.
I'm curious. I want to know more about how they made this possible because this is fucking-tastic. Man. July 27th last year. And we served it at around the mark that they're asking, the 45 to 55 degrees.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let this set for a minute and just see what it's kind of like when I warm it up a bit.
Raspberry Charcoal Barrel Aged series the 50th installment to the Barrel Aged series from Avery. An homage to Dad's favorite dessert, a riff on our first ever seasonal brew from 96, magnified in bourbon barrels for a bigger, bolder bite of indulgence.
That's nuts. It's
I really like this beer.
It's delicious.
Oh man, this is good. I'll get a better picture of this.
Heck yeah. This was a delightful surprise. We are going to be enjoying this. I hope this is still recording.
Did it stop?
See. It might have.
Well, the stop button is still highlighted, but so is it.
Hello? Hello? I'm not seeing it record. Are you? What's yours at?
On Audacity, I'm at 1 hour and 30 minutes.
This is 1 hour and 30.
Okay.
Well, let me help.
It's at 1 hour and 30 now for me.
Okay. Oh, it just went to 1:30:40.
Okay, so maybe it is still recording.
I hope it is.
It might be. What's the very first part? Is it 0?
I don't know.
Where does it start at on the screen there? Where does it start at? What's the hour and minutes? It might be looking at the entire recording as a whole, and since it's so long, it's not moving very much.
That's true. I just saw this nudge a bit over here, so I think we're all right. Either way, we got some audio one way or the other.
Yeah.
Nice. That is.
I like that beer.
I am delightfully surprised. This was actually on the shelves here in Nashville.
Oh, really?
I believe so. I saw it, but because it says raspberry truffle, I'm not too keen on it, but now I am. Mm-hmm. I'll have to keep an eye out for it because Avery has random stuff on our shelves here in Tennessee. So I believe this is one I've seen. And I think when Dick and Rick visited, well, Dick's stationed here in Nashville. Rick came and visited us. They went beer hunting for a Christmas party here at our office and picked up, I believe it was this one and several other Avery beverages. But I know for a fact for that night that Rick brought back Samuel or something like that. I forget exactly which one it was, but it was one of the discontinued beers that are still on the shelves at Avery. I forget what it was called. It was weird, but very good. It was super sweet for a heavy hitter. It was a dark beer, but it hit hard and sweet. It was weird. Raspberry truffles, delightful. Man, this is a good day. We got all sorts of good beers. We went through Secret City, which was a limited release from Tennessee Brew Works. We got Hop Slam from Bell's, which is a yearly release. And we've went on to the darker side, and we went the barrel-aged raspberry truffle from Avery. And so the Hop Slam, Bell's, Secret City, Tennessee Brew Works, Avery, with the barrel-aged series, as they note here, with the raspberry truffle. And, you know, it's all been a ride. This has been delicious, and we've got one more that we're coming up with here. And it's from a brewery that I sincerely love. And to go on a tangent... A tangent. So from several years ago, me and my now wife, Allison, we went to Chicago several times before we got married and just loved the city. Don't know if we could live in it, but we definitely love visiting. And Revolution Brewery has been a staple of our visit. And my wife's not much of a beer drinker, but I really am. So I insisted that we wait outside of Revolution Brewery during their busiest hours when we were visiting. And when we got there, we saw a guy that was just fantastically shoved into an SUV and drove away. So that was very interesting. But on top of that, we went in, we finally got a seat. It took about 30 minutes or so. Kind of high time, kind of crowded. They're a popular brewery within the city, so I totally get it. But they also serve food. They were serving a soup that was just fantastic and one of my wife's favorites. So we went there. I can't think of the word, but we waited. And we went in and had about 10 bowls of soup total, like between us. Because it was fantastic. It was like a butternut squash kind of soup. It was around, fall to winter when we went. And I just had stout after stout after stout from Revolution. Loved their beer. And I don't really remember the first time I've had it. I think it just was a spur of the moment when I was there in Chicago for the first time. We went, had a beer. It was good. Second time we went, I had to go. And it was phenomenal. Their service was, 100% beer after beer, soup after soup, what we wanted when we got in. And it was awesome. And I can't I don't know. I can't express enough how good it was. And now they've got the Deep Wood series and I want it, but I haven't been back yet.
Do they distribute? Do we know if they distribute that anywhere?
No, well, supposedly they distribute wherever they distribute. So the series that they release goes anywhere, but I don't know how viable it is between the distributors.
Like how far out they might distribute. Well, that's a common thing, because a lot of times they'll give them to the distributors and they'll say, hey, this is the allocation that you have, and it's up to the distributors to determine where they're going to put that beer. So Revolution may distribute that beer, but they may or may not have a say once they pass it on to the distributors where they want to send it to.
That's true.
So it's okay.
That's why it's random. Like, we had the Anti-Hero show up in Murfreesboro recently, and that's I think it's a double IPA. I know it's an IPA of a sort, but I'm not 100% sure because they're not here. I went for their barrel age series when I went and visited Chicago in the past, or their stouts. So their IPAs were new to me for a while until we started having several people from the office go to Chicago to talk to clients and bring back some beer. And I specifically requested Revolution, and that's how we got acquainted to the IPA section of Revolution Brewery here. But I really don't know overall.
I actually had Anti-Hero at a movie theater.
What?
In Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's a little suburb outside Chicago that we went to visit, and it was one of those bar / food, / waiter / service industry type movie theaters where you can go in and you say, this is what I want to eat, this is what I want to drink, and you push a button, they bring you your beer, and then they bring your food, and then you watch the movie, and then if you want something throughout the movie, you just push a little button, and they're very discreet about coming in and picking, giving you something or taking your order. So I think the only Revolution beer I've had, other than the one we're about to have, is Anti-Hero.
Oh, wow.
So this should be interesting for me because I've only had one. Anti-Hero is a little under 7% and about 65 IBUs. Whoa, excuse me. So this will be unique because what we're drinking next from them is a coffee porter.
It is.
And stout?
It is a coffee porter. Okay. And Eugene is a porter, if I'm not mistaken. And they went and made a coffee Eugene.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I couldn't tell you about their label very much. I always love their label work because it's just, it's fantastic. But there's an old guy that I'm not sure, but I'm going to say he's Eugene.
He has to be. Why would they put him
And
on
he's
there?
holding up a whole tapestry here with the label of coffee. So that's my ignorance. I haven't done my research on it. But Revolution Brewing is a favorite, and I'll try anything from them. And we're about to polish off this raspberry truffle. But as we're looking at the can, they proudly proclaim that Revolution Brewing Coffee Eugene Porter with Coffee is brewed in Chicago. And I appreciate the bold statement. I kind of wish more breweries kind of did a similar thing, if not at just the end of
kind
the can.
Kind of an homage to where they are,
yes,
where they're housed.
When you have to look up where craft beer is, it's kind of doing more homework than you need to off the can.
Right.
I mean, you could always look at the back, I guess. Chicago, Illinois, USA 60618. I mean, there's that, but I love being able to look at a can right out of its label of what it is and knowing where it came from. And it's unmistakable to know where the fist in their logo comes from after you've had Revolution Brewery. It's almost prevalent on every series of the can except their specialty series, like the Hero series. I can't exactly remember what they called it, but they've got several different kinds. They got the Anti-Hero, then there's the flavored IPAs and whatnot. Then they've got their Deepwood series, which, I think originally started with Death's Tar, which was a play on words, as you could tell. But it's just, there's some blanks I've got from not living in the city and being able to go to the brewery every day. So I'm really looking forward to getting to know Revolution Brewing better. We've been drinking a little bit, if you can't tell.
Oh, just a little bit. I'm actually going to interrupt real quick.
Go for it.
I've had another, and I thought the only beer I had was the Anti-Hero from, which was the IPA. But as soon as you brought up Death's Tar, I was like, hang on a second, I've heard that before. So I went to my Untappd profile, and I looked it up, and it turns out I had it.
Oh, man.
So I'm trying to figure out where it was. If I look at my
Surely profile. It was when you were going to Dark Lord's Day.
No, because I'm sitting there. I've got the can in. Yeah, I think it was a Dark Lord Day.
Gotta be.
Yep. So I don't have much to go. May 19th, 2000. Yep. This was a Dark Lord Day. That was when I had it. I took a picture of the can. I tagged my buddy who went to Dark Lord Day with me. And of course, I didn't add the location in which I was drinking it, so I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot there. But the fact that I had tagged my Dark Lord Day buddy and it was on the same day as Dark Lord Day in 2018 makes me believe that that's where I had it, because I'll look at the picture and I see a whole bunch of people in the background at what looks like to be a beer event. So I really have little doubt in my mind that it was anything other than Dark Lord Day. So. Now I'm curious how many of these guys' beers I've had, because I thought it was just Anti-Hero, but apparently I've had 4 of their beers.
Ooh.
Death Tar, Cross of Gold.
Not familiar with Cross of Gold.
This was actually, believe it or not, when I ran a 5K. This was a beer that they had at the end of the 5K, so... it was their Cross of Gold, which was almost like a light lager beer at the finish line. So I've had it. And then Seasonal 8, which was a pale ale. That was at an Italian restaurant in Nashville. And then, of course, Anti-Hero. So those are the 4 that I've had. So I'm familiar more with Revolution than I thought. But every single beer of theirs that I've checked in has been relatively high marks, a 3 or above.
Wow. Okay.
So
that's awesome.
They've got a tall order to fill here.
That's true. Okay. I've had their heroes, and I couldn't tell you which off the top of my head. Yeah, definitely Galaxy.
Okay.
And I've got to go to my Untapped to figure this out. If I do see all of my beers, I can type in Revolution. Oh wow, I've got one I forgot about. So I've had the Anti-Hero, which is an IPA.
Yeah.
Coffee Eugene, which is what we're about to have. One's Enough, which is 11% IPA double. Freedom of Speech, which I had recently. It's a sour ale. It was okay. I gave it a 3.5, surprisingly. I must have really liked it. Crystal Hero, which is another IPA of 7.2 ABV. Local Hero. Amarillo Hero. Tropic Hero. And then I had the Oktoberfest recently as well. Thanks to people who went out of state and brought some back.
Gotcha.
Same with this Coffee Eugene that we're about to have. My boss, Dick Pepper, actually brought back the Hero series, which was Anti-Hero, One's Enough, Crystal Hero, Local Hero, and Amarillo Hero, Tropic Hero. So it was kind of like I think that's what? Hero 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a 5-pack of Heroes, and then he brought back a 6-pack of One's Enough. One's Enough is 11%, 100 IBU.
Woo!
And I gave it a 3.75, but apparently the global number for this on Untapped is 4.02. So interesting. Their IPAs are pretty good, and their porters have been all right. And I want to say their stouts are even better than their porters, but it's been a few years. So let's find out.
Yeah. I don't pick up much on the nose. There's some coffee.
Ooh, I got some on my nose.
Yeah?
I smell coffee, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Do we want to pour this one into a glass?
Why not? I almost feel like...
We can go get a new glass.
Yeah, let's go get some new glasses. Right. You have anything close by?
Nope. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Here we go with some new glasses. As we both pour.
Right.
I'll let that foamy head relax.
This has a lot of foam on it.
Yeah. we both did the slanted pour, just so you know, and poured too quick.
There's a nice waterfall effect to this.
There is.
Though. So you pour it in, and I'd say probably 3/4 of my pint glass is filled with foamy head right now, but it's kind of it's foaming up and then it's lacing down backwards. So we're really getting a good feel of. I mean, there's a good amount of foam on this pour. I can't tell if that was me or if that's just how the beer is poured typically. This is odd that we're actually finishing off with this one for the day.
That's true.
We kind of started out really, really hoppy and really, really high ABV, and then we just kind of went up from there. We had two 10%ers and then a 14%, which I think we went in the right order there. Like we started out with two pretty high. Now, me personally, I would always start out with the darker beers and then move to the hoppy beers. But I think I told you this last time we were hanging out, because last time we did a podcast, you said, let's start out with the hoppy beers, the IPAs, and then let's move into the darker beers. And we did that, and it worked.
True.
Like, I'm very much a fan. I used to think end with the hoppy beers, but because I always thought that the hops were going to ruin my palate.
They're palate crushers.
Yes, but it works out because a lot of your darker beers are either barrel aged or they're coffee or chocolate, and there's just no muting those flavors no matter what you have before. So I'm definitely a fan of drinking the hoppy beers first. So I think we went in the right order. And then we had this 14% raspberry truffle. Yeah. And I'm scared that this coffee Eugene is going to be muted because there were so many flavors in that raspberry truffle.
There was.
From Avery that I'm not sure I'm going to get a lot of flavor out of this beer. So I hope I'm wrong.
I mean, we can do a rinser. Like, we can go get some water.
I almost feel like I need a glass of water before I can drink this beer.
I prefer a little less of a head than I've got on my beer.
Let it sit for a minute.
There's no way that this coffee porter could compete with a barrel-aged raspberry truffle.
Nope.
There's no way.
Not without some sort of a cleanser.
Yeah. So this is as accurate as we can get for the moment. I'm going to take a picture real quick because I'm a nerd about it. But let's see here. We use Untapped if you want to find us. Oh, excuse me. You won't find us with foamy heads just yet, but you can look up, at least for me, it's Velsinik, I believe.
Well, and there's something to that. Whether or not we create an actual Untapped profile for the foamy heads, I'm not sure if that's the case because, Instagram and stuff like that, people you want to follow, and Twitter and Facebook and things like that, we could have our own social media page. But Untapped, it's more about the unique individual and what beer they're drinking. So,
and it's almost locale specific. You don't really want to follow someone that's outside of your city.
Right, because you want to know what's available around your area. And then on top of that, Mitch has completely different flavor profiles that he tastes than I do. So it would be unfair to us and to everybody that listens to look at the Foamy Head Untapped profile page and says, oh, these guys like this beer, I'm going to go try it. When in reality, maybe only one of us actually likes that beer. Right. The other one doesn't necessarily agree with the flavor profile and the tastings and things like that.
If we ever had to create a profile, it'd have to be an aggregate. There's just no way around it. And really, it's just follow the different profiles, if you will.
Yep.
But it's just very specific with Untapped.
Well, and we can link them in our Instagram page, or if we decide that we want to post something on Twitter or something like that, we can.
True.
We can throw our profiles out there.
And we'll eventually get a website where all this information is available. It's just a matter of time. So you'll be able to check us out eventually. And we'll let you know the URL when that happens. For now, we just want to talk about beer.
Yeah. This smells good. Coffee Eugene from Revolution Brewing.
Definitely coffee.
Yeah. I'm going to take a sip.
And there's not much you can say about the color other than it's dark.
Yeah.
As you'd expect a porter to be.
Yeah.
Decent foamy head. Caramel. In a way. Color. Huh. I only pick up coffee on the nose.
I've taken 2 sips of this beer, and all I get is coffee.
Yeah.
I don't really get anything else with this beer. There's no chocolate. It's very bitter.
The aftertaste is super bitter that I would get after like a dark chocolate. But the front is completely coffee.
Straight coffee.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, it is almost like a cold brew coffee.
Mm-hmm.
I know coffee doesn't sit too high in your lights there,
No, not necessarily, but I'm still new to that. I'm still new to coffee and beers because only recently have I been a coffee porter or a coffee stout beer person. So I'm not privy to all the unique flavor profiles that it has to offer. I've recently just discovered how to identify espresso in a coffee. So if something tastes like it has an espresso flavor to it, I don't know what that tastes like. I have to be told that this is espresso. So that's the only way that I know. I'm not picking up on any of that here.
Yeah, I'm not either. But.
Obviously, I know what coffee tastes like because coffee tastes exactly, for the most part, to me, like it smells.
Mm-hmm.
But this beer doesn't have much, and it could be the chocolate and the raspberry, barrel-aged raspberry truffle that we had. But I'm not really picking up much on anything here except for coffee.
No, I think you're on the right track. It is primarily coffee. There's just a little hint of porter, just with the body, but the rest is all coffee. There's not much else to it. Coffee Eugene is just coffee porter.
It's just coffee porter.
Yeah, I think I gave it higher marks when I first had it. Now that I'm having it a second time, it's a little harsher of a trial, I believe. And it's got a little lower marks for me. I think the first time I had it, I hadn't had coffee all day. So I had the coffee porter, and it was awesome.
Yeah. So you dropped your rating from a 3.75 to a 3.25.
That's right.
On Untapped. Interesting. My 2 cents.
Yeah.
I am typically not a coffee person unless it's in beer. So my energy shots typically come from caffeine and in the form of large doses of caffeine or energy drinks or pre-workouts or something like that. But coffee typically isn't my go-to. So that being said, I'm not privy to coffee flavors. I just know what I like and what I don't like. And this beer is okay. Like it's really just, I kind of see what you're saying. There's a little bit of a porter right in the middle.
Yes.
Or right maybe between the middle and the finish, where I would say this is obviously not just coffee, it's beer, but it doesn't do anything for me. It's just it's coffee up front, and then it just dissipates into a regular porter at the end, and it doesn't stand out. There's nothing about this beer that sticks out.
Right. I agree with that. I love coffee. So it's almost an easy card to play in my court. I love coffee. It's my daily dose of caffeine. I usually have 8 cups or more a day. This weekend, it is. This weekend, it has been a lot less, so I have been less amped, I guess. I've had headaches because of the caffeine. Yes. But today, I went ahead and had 6 cups of coffee or more. I couldn't tell you. I just kind of brewed it. So the coffee Eugene tastes great to me. That's why I did drop it down to a 3.25 because it's not anything special. I've had my coffee today, so having more coffee is only a benefit to me. But it is just a porter, and it's got that heavy hitting coffee flavor. So it's It's great if you love coffee.
Yes.
That's about it. I don't know what else to say about it other than it's a coffee porter. What do you expect?
True that.
I didn't know like that. I love Revolution, but this is definitely heavy hitting coffee flavor on top of a porter. The porter is just like barely there. It's mostly coffee, I feel like, other than being a porter. But it is like having black coffee right now.
I feel like I've been repeating myself for the last 10 minutes.
No.
On this beer.
Well, I mean,
it's coffee. And there's nothing else.
Yeah.
It's coffee. Up front, it's coffee.
We're going to have beers where we repeat ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is just what it is. There's no hiding it. They put it here. Coffee porter with, coffee.
Coffee Eugene.
Yeah.
With coffee.
I don't care who Eugene is. It's coffee porter. I mean, it's good if you want coffee and a porter. There you go. It's better than some porters I've had, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But
Eugene Porter was sent to a bright tank and aged for an additional week with whole bean coffee from Dark Matter.
Dark Matter. That's a big thing in Chicago.
Oh, okay. Cold aging allows us, you mentioned cold brew coffee, that this resembles cold brew coffee. The cold aging allows them to extract the aromatic oils from the coffee without extracting any additional bitterness that may impart. Okay.
Interesting.
28 IBUs, 7% ABV.
Yeah.
Definitely more on the even keel, weaker side to finish out the kind of a good taper off beer.
It is.
We killed some beers today.
We did. We did some work. And we may even have a little taste of some Nika from the barrel. What do you think?
I'm always down to try that one.
At least an ounce.
Yes.
A finger or two.
Yes. That was so good.
Yeah. We might as well. We'll finish out this beer. Have a little taste. And we'll be good. Man. It's a little sad going through this beer because we started with Secret City, which was unexplored territory, really. Neither of us have been picked up on Tennessee Brew Works as a beer to go and get. We know they're a staple in Tennessee, Nashville, and we appreciate everything they're doing with their beers. It's just
we don't follow them.
Right.
Yeah.
There hasn't been anything hard-hitting for us to continue to buy. I don't know. It's just probably more our problem than anything.
Maybe.
It might have been just a one beer thing. I will say that I don't remember his name. I was at Black Abbey during their winter beer. I can't remember the name of it, but this has been a couple years ago. But they do a winter beer event where it's all bourbon barrel aged dark beers. And the guy from Tennessee Brew Works, one of the marketing directors or something, showed up, and he dispensed a couple guitar picks. And I was like, that's great. That's a brilliant little idea for publicity wherever you go, just to distribute Tennessee Brew Works picks.
Yes.
There's no harm in that. It can only help. It's Music City. People use the shit out of guitar picks.
And their logo is a guitar pick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I just kind of complimented him on that. And, I'm sure anyone would. And he goes, yeah. Well, they were in partnership for a time, apparently, with Honey and Beer and some other distributors involved. And Black Abbey and Tennessee Brew Works had a collaboration that year. And I don't think I got to experience that at the end of it. It was only hinted at, and it was still in production. So I think what I had, I was given like an early production taste, but it was primarily honey, almost like the taste of a mead. So it was getting there. It wasn't complete yet. That being said, I really appreciate the effort of just like saying, this is where we're from. He was already wearing a polo from Tennessee Brewer, so there's no hiding it.
Right.
But the fact of getting a pick and the experience, talking with someone experienced in the field with how beer is done,
it's pretty cool.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's hands down one of the best ways to get involved and talk and discuss. And his discourse was great. So I don't know why I have not had a beer that I've just wanted to talk about with Tennessee Brew Works. It's mind-numbing why I haven't talked more about them.
Maybe we need to do a podcast with just a bunch of Tennessee Brew Works beers, because I'm kind of with you. Like, every time I've tried something from these guys, it's just never been I don't think they make bad beer.
No, by any means.
It's just there's nothing special about the flavor profiles of what they make. In the Nashville has a lot of different breweries. Bearded Iris has pretty much cornered the IPA territory.
They really have.
In Nashville. I mean, there is no doubt about it. Their 3-year anniversary party had upwards of 3,000 people in line yesterday.
Which is insane.
It's insane. And people are willing to wait in line for hours and hours and hours for a beer that they may or may not get again from these guys. Black Abbey is just, I personally don't drink a lot of Black Abbey. That doesn't mean that they're not good. It's just there's so much more in Nashville. Black Abbey is all about, kind of the I hate to use this term, but they're the anti-religion when it comes to beer. Like, they steer on the darker side of things. Like, their name and their whole setup is like a church for the dark side of things.
Right.
So they are all about darker beers and going against the grain on everything. So you've got that, and then you've got Bearded Iris, and then you've got breweries like Turtle Anarchy that are making some really weird beers. And then you got Tennessee Brew Works. Like, they make a wit, they make an IPA, they make a porter, and there's just nothing that stands out about them.
Right.
So I overlook them every time, because if I want a regular beer, I'll go to Tennessee Brew Works. But if I want something unique, I'm going to go somewhere else.
Right.
So I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong.
One name that comes to mind that I've had random encounters with and fantastic tastes of beer with is Southern Grist.
Oh, I love Southern Grist. I love Southern Grist.
Like, they're like the brain ninja in Tennessee. You don't hear much about them, but when you experience them, you're like, oh shit,
why haven't I had more of these guys before? Right. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that. And matter of fact, every time I go to Nashville, Southern Grist is the last place that I think to go. But every time my buddy goes, hey, let's go to Southern Grist, I go, okay, I'll meet up with you.
Right.
It's always a great time.
It's so good.
They make so many good beers. They make good IPAs. They make weird IPAs.
Yeah.
But they make porters. They make stouts. They make everything good. I don't know if they make sours. Do they make sours?
I'm sure they've done. But like you said, they're the last thought in Nashville for some reason.
But they're good.
They're delicious.
Why doesn't Richard think of those guys more?
Why doesn't everybody?
Yes.
For some reason, Bearded Iris has the market when it comes to Nashville beer right now. And, we've got also Cesar's. Or
Tailgate
yeah.
makes a lot of good beer.
We got a lot of breweries popping up in Nashville, but not many of them are making a big name when it comes to just talking about them.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why. It could just be us. I don't know.
Maybe it's a marketing thing.
It could be.
Because Bearded Iris makes IPAs.
Yeah.
And a lot of their IPAs taste very much the same. Like, all of their IPAs have that same Bearded Iris base.
Yes.
Where you go, that's a Bearded Iris beer. Like, you can always tell when you drink a Bearded Iris beer. But what do people do? They stand in line every time they release a new IPA.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we got to have this. It's got to be a marketing technique.
It's something, man. Yeah, it's got to be marketing. Bearded Iris, I'm like, somehow they became the staple. I'm not exactly sure of how that became to be in Nashville, especially at their location. But it's amazing.
Well, here's my thought. No brewery has really lots of Nashville breweries make IPAs. Turtle Anarchy makes IPAs.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee Brewworks makes a 1927 unfiltered IPA. It's not bad. I really liked it. That's probably been one of my favorite breweries from Tennessee Brewworks.
Mm.
Tennessee Brewworks, Turtle Anarchy. There's quite a few out. Southern Grist, Tailgate makes really good IPAs. I love Tailgate's IPAs, yeah. But I always go back to Bearded Iris, and I really couldn't figure out why. Then I thought about it. Every time Bearded Iris posts a new update on a brewery that they release a new beer every other Friday. It's a new IPA. Yeah. But if you go look on their Instagram page, they actually tell you what hops are going into their IPA. Oh. And whether or not it's the same or it's different, they say, here's the information that goes into this IPA. And it makes me subconsciously think, that's a beer I want to try.
Right.
So on top of good marketing, you can stack up a whole bunch of Bearded Iris cans next to each other, and they all just look good next to each other. They're very similar, but they're all different at the same time. Consistent, that's the word. Yeah. That's the one I'm looking for, exactly. But they all have different hops in it, but they all have the same Bearded Iris base.
Right.
Combine that with their marketing, I go, oh, look, they're releasing a new beer. I need to go try it.
Because of the consistency, you know that you're going to like it.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think I like Bearded Iris because every single time they release something new, I know the hops that are in it.
Right.
But at the same time,
proudly present it.
Yeah, yes. It's right on their label. But their labels are consistent enough to where you can stack multiple Bearded Iris beers next to each other and you go, those are all beer. They look the same, but at the same time, they all look good because they're all different next to each other.
Oh, speaking of Bearded Iris, they had a big 3-year. Mm-hmm. And
3-year anniversary party yesterday.
There's been some beers that I've missed, like Scatterbrain, Double Scatterbrain, all disappeared. Pretty sure past 2 years they went away. But Homestyle stuck around, got its own branding.
They're a staple.
Yep. And, it's crazy how many different things they come up with. Chief of Chiefs is still a thing.
Oh,
yeah.
I love Chief of Chiefs.
I love Chief of Chiefs too. I forgot it was still around, and they did something maybe a month before their 3rd anniversary with Chief of Chiefs.
Yep.
I still want to go find it and see if I still like it. I'm sure I will.
You will.
But it's like what you were saying. They disclose exactly everything that they put into it, but they don't say how much or how little or whatever. So I feel like there's a little bit of strategy and a little bit of a curtain, you know what I mean? But
it is. I can see a curtain, yeah.
Yeah.
It almost makes it like, oh, it's out. I have to go get it now before it runs out.
Right.
That's what they do with Chief of Chiefs. It's released every 3 months.
Right.
But for whatever reason, you have to go fucking get it because they just released Chief of Chiefs.
Yeah.
So you have to go get it while it's still available.
So, I mean, there's a big event that happened. We might have some beers for it. We might not. We'll see.
I think we will.
All right.
I think we will.
I didn't go, but we'll see what we can get. Let's just say the line was 2,000 out the door.
Yep. It was closer. My buddy went there to their 3rd anniversary party yesterday, and he said by the time he left, there were 3,000 people there.
Ooh.
At the brewery.
That's
a lot of people.
If that's not a staple of Nashville, I don't know what is.
Yeah. When you can, in a city full of microbreweries, when a brewery that releases nothing but IPAs and stouts, they've gotten pretty good at their stout game.
At the beginning, it was sketchy.
It was sketchy. I'm trying to remember the name of their first stout.
It was something to do with a ship, man. I don't.
It was something to do with the ship. I remember that. It's killing me now.
Yeah.
So I mean, Homestyle was their first beer, and they came out with and they do this. They do every other Friday. They have every other Friday and every other Saturday. They release 2 new beers, and maybe that's what it is. Is they only produce it in limited quantities, and then people go get it, and then it's gone for a while, and then they come back and then they say, "Hey, we're re-releasing this beer," and people are like, "I gotta go get this beer."
Yeah.
And maybe that's what it is.
It could be. It could be the limited amounts that they produce, though it's enough for a substantial amount of population. But
yeah,
I can't tell exactly what the hype is all about overall, because I mean, we're coming at 3 years.
Yeah.
Bearded Iris has been a staple in Nashville since year one.
Yep.
Year one was a blast. We were like, oh shit, there's IPA in Nashville.
Good IPAs in Nashville.
Year two, oh shit,
You're
more
keep going
IPA.
with the IPAs in Nashville.
And now we're at year three. And year three, they've produced a third, I guess, edition of home style.
Triple home style.
So I haven't looked or read anything into it. Do you know what it's about at all?
It's all Simcoe based.
Okay.
So homestyle has always been a single hop IPA with Simcoe hops.
Interesting.
And so year one they released homestyle. That was kind of like their staple beer, so much to the point that they rebranded the canning, and it looks solid. Like the black can with the gold labeling and the hats and like all the apparel that they produce looks really good. And the second year they were in business, they actually came out with double homestyle, and it was just like, it's homestyle, but it's double IPA.
And they kept producing it throughout the year.
Yeah,
so you could get it anywhere.
Yep. You could get it anywhere, not all the time, because it would come out, every couple of months, and people are like, "Oh, I gotta get homestyle," and everybody go buy it up, and then all of a sudden they didn't have it anymore.
Right.
And then 3 months later, they would release it again, and that's probably what their marketing technique is.
Probably.
And then their 3-year anniversary happened yesterday.
That's right.
And they posted an image on their Instagram account where they had a can of homestyle and it was crumpled up and laying down on the side like it had died. Yeah. And then they had the double homestyle can that was crumpled up and died onto the side. And then they had a can of triple homestyle Reigning Supreme sitting on top of both
Pristine.
cans. And that was the exact. I looked at that and I go, I have to have that beer.
They got good photos.
Yes. Very good for, and their marketing is on point. I think that's what's caused Bearded Iris to be such a successful brewery in Nashville.
Yes,
is they can release variations of the same damn beer and be popular.
Now, I can't speak to the scarlet letter I've heard overall from the community about them, but they're unstoppable right now in Nashville, man. They rose out of nowhere, it seems like, to the general populace and have continued to dominate.
Yep.
And that is wild to me.
And we'll see where they go.
That's right. This is the 3rd year. It's still going strong.
But you know what? They've started out with IPAs and they did a porter. Ship Shape. That was the name of their porter that they did.
That was it.
That was it. And they've gotten over time. They had V Fudge, and they've done various non-IPA beers, and some of them have been wildly successful. And other ones were like, good for you for trying, but just go back to IPAs.
Ship
Shape exhibit. But they're starting to understand the non-IPA game a little bit, because they released a couple of barrel-aged stouts at their 3rd anniversary party yesterday that a buddy of mine went to and was able to secure a couple for me.
Very nice.
And every time I try now a non-IPA from Bearded Iris, I'm not disappointed by them. So I think they're starting to branch out from IPAs, which is good, because they understand that they need to stay relevant in the beer industry, and the way to do it is not just produce more IPAs all the time. They have to keep things fresh. And that's what their reasoning is for releasing all these new non-IPA beers, and they're doing a good job at it.
They really are. Keep us interested enough to keep going back. And the rest of Nashville, apparently.
Yep.
So they're
Who else has a line of 3,000 people outside their brewery for an anniversary party? There's no other brewery that does that.
No. There's nothing that comes up on my feed about it. And it could be my problem, but
I don't think it is.
I don't think it is either.
No. Bearded Iris even went so far as to say, here's our 3rd anniversary party. Here are the places you're not allowed to park. Which means they have been so popular that in times past they have had people park in places where they were not supposed to park, simply because they ran out of places to park on an anniversary party.
Right.
That's a good problem to have.